We enter this building and we always see those words, equal justice under the law. And today, we're closer to that equality. It really helped us turn anger into action. It led to this case and to today's victory as well. So today is a good day. It's the day I finally get to look at the man that I love and finally say, will you please marry me?
The CMC is a collaboration of the leading funders of the LGBT movement that aligned around marriage.
Those kinds of funder collaboratives and philanthropy are a bit rare, but when they work well, and the CMC worked fabulously well.
It's based on a lot of hard work, huge amounts of investment, and millions of conversations that people were willing to have, risking their privilege, risking relationships to try to move society forward. And boy, have we done that.
I grew up in a working class family that had an innate sense of fairness, what was right and what was wrong and what was fair and what was not fair. That kind of frame that I grew up with and seeing how working class people were and are treated in this country, and then realizing as a teenager that I myself was gay, that put a fire in my belly.
Like everyone of my generation, AIDS, of course, affected me enormously. Living through that period where our friends were dying and it was literally life or death, the people you saw and knew and worked with and loved and cared about, feeling like we were living through a war and yet walking on the streets in our own neighborhoods where our non-gay friends and colleagues and neighbors were living ordinary lives.
I just got involved in the movement at a very early age and never left it. And I'm one of those very, very, very few people that has been able to be gainfully employed in the movement for more than 20 years. I think it's a great social justice cause. It's personal to me, obviously, so I just feel incredibly lucky.
I grew up Mormon in Utah, and I remember coming to consciousness as a lesbian when I was in my late teens. And I was very fearful of having that conversation with my mom. Well, what she said to me is, honey, the most important thing to me is that you're happy. And I do feel like that made all the rest of my life possible. I mean, I really do feel like she launched me to be able to be a warrior for justice for LGBT people in a way that was unabashed and unashamed. And if she had gone the other direction, well, I don't think I'd be sitting here, and I certainly don't think I'd be talking about my work.
When the CMC was created, we had just won marriage in Massachusetts, and that created a national firestorm by our opponents. President Bush called for an amendment to the U.S. Constitution to prohibit same-sex marriage.
Our nation must defend the sanctity of marriage.
Our opponents went crazy in the states, signaled they were going to put constitutional amendments on the ballots, and we were not at all prepared for that. In 2004, 13 states passed constitutional amendments outlawing same-sex marriage. I think the majority of gay rights organizations did not choose marriage as a priority. It was chosen for us.
The difference between a dream and a goal is a plan. And politically and strategically, the sense was that marriage is traditionally a state-regulated kind of thing, so that the battle would need to be fought out at the state level.
We realized that taking $2 million a year and spreading it out among 10, 12 states was not going to create the change that we needed. We had to make harder and harder and tougher decisions so that fewer states got more money and we could make a bigger impact. And by winning states and coming to a critical mass of states in support of marriage, we would propel the nation to a coast-to-coast resolution.
So the Civil Marriage Collaborative Funders played a central role in fueling that machine, in fueling that strategy, and also by virtue of their sticking with it and working with us and engaging with us activists, they themselves acquired a knowledge and an expertise and a commitment to the strategy that helped inform not only their decisions, but our thinking and our work, even beyond the money they were helping us raise.
California's Proposition 8, the ballot proposition which would eliminate same-sex marriage, has 52% yes, reported from 96% of the precincts, with 48% voting no. Again, this is from 96% of the precincts reporting, and this ballot proposition, which again eliminates same-sex marriage, with most of the vote for yes, will definitely put California as a state in the national spotlight for sure.
God.
That lowest moment of my career when we lost on Prop 8. And I truly was just bereft. It was a grief that I can only akin to the loss of my close, intimate family members. It was deep and searing and just so painful.
I was, very adamant that, yes, this is a disaster, and what our job is to figure out what went wrong here and to do our piece in trying to fix it. So everybody calm down. Nobody said we were gonna win this in 3 years, so chill out.
We thought that the problem in California was operational. Field organizing, coherent campaign staff, blah, blah, blah. We didn't lose Prop 8 because of operational issues. We lost Prop 8 because we weren't reaching people.
In my lifetime, I've seen discrimination, and I see it again in Proposition 8. No matter how you feel about marriage, vote against discrimination and vote no on 8.
Initially, the early message in the marriage movement was a little bit too legal, so we funded endless amounts of research to really kind of dismantle the foundations of homophobia. When you ask the average straight person who's married why they got married, they say they got married because they fell in love. They didn't get married because they knew in their state there was a list of 937 benefits that would accrue to them when they got married.
We could move hearts and minds, quote unquote, with the rights-based messaging, but the minute that they saw that ad...
Mom, guess what I learned in school today?
What, sweetie?
I learned how a prince married a prince, and I can marry a princess.
Think it can happen? It's already happened.
It triggered them. Their homophobic feelings came up, and bam, they slid backwards. So that's what happened in California. We were ahead in the polls, right? And then they unleashed this homophobic stuff, and our support just collapsed.
So when they heard gay activists and advocates talk about marriage and talk about it in a rights frame, that actually reinforced this sense that there was a difference there. You all want to get married because you want rights and goodies. We got married because we fell in love and we want to make a commitment to each other. So when we realized that, then we funded additional research to really try to get why the people who are opposed to what it is we wanted and needed, why they were opposed.
People were testing different messages, like taking it head on, doing a softer approach, having an old gay couple be the messengers. Doesn't work. Straight people, conflicted people aren't comfortable with a gay couple talking about this. They had to have a different messenger.
We weren't always so gay-friendly. We didn't even grow up in an era where it was discussed.
We had just found out our daughter was gay. There was a lot of emotions. We went to see a priest, and I will never forget the answer that he told me. She is the same person that you loved yesterday.
We love our daughter.
I would be very happy if my oldest daughter could get married at home.
So what we learned was we had to find a message that would move people. We always were trying to change hearts and minds. It was how do you do it and how do you make it stick? Through public education dollars, talking about why marriage matters, through messengers that worked, we were able to hold public support.
That's when the hearts piece of the hearts and minds work really started firing on all cylinders.
Lots of great news for proponents of marriage equality today. Maine passes question 1 with 54% in favor of gay marriage. Minnesota has 52% for gay marriage. Washington has referendum 74 with 52% saying yes to gay marriage. And finally Maryland with question 6, 52% for gay marriage. So Maine, Minnesota, Washington, and Maryland. That's 4 for 4 in those states.
And then I knew this is going to happen a lot quicker than anybody thought.
DOMA is gone. This is a major, broadly written opinion which strikes down the law on the ground that it discriminates against gay people. This is a decision that says gay people have equal rights under the federal Constitution when it comes to this statute.
We were supporting state-based activities, litigation, etc., that was careful and not flashy and didn't get the headlines. But it got us over the finish line.
I say this out of love. I wouldn't be saying this to you if I didn't love you. The homosexual lifestyle is a lifestyle of sin and punishable by death.
Marriage is the right to marry the person that you love, and I'm here with the person that I love.
Progress on this journey often comes in small increments. Sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then sometimes there are days like this. This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality.
We didn't know it was going to happen Friday morning, June 26th, but there was a very strong suspicion among my staff.
And as 10 o'clock came, we really were all checking. And I said, oh my God, we won.
I screamed and hooped and hollered and woke up my kids.
And then, of course, as I read it, I found myself crying.
thought back to myself being like, a 15-year-old gay kid in Philadelphia, doing gay rights work in college, working on AIDS for so many years. I was very overwhelmed in a moment thinking about the tens and tens of thousands of people we lost in the AIDS epidemic who couldn't be there in that moment to celebrate that.
Sorry. It was unbelievable and so gratifying at the same time.
Because of the CMC and the money behind it, the gay and lesbian movement was able to come together, come up with a plan and a vision to achieve marriage equality.
That was the epic work of this movement, of this strategy, of this campaign, supported by Civil Marriage Collaborative. It is an example of how, if you believe and work hard and sacrifice and struggle and stick with it and trust that others can open their hearts and change and don't take no for an answer, you can change things.
It's my enormous pleasure to welcome you here and to be here in this incredible moment in time when we are both celebrating marriage victory, celebrating the work of the Civil Marriage Collaborative, celebrating the fact that it's going out of business, and taking note of the fact that there's a lot more work to do.
I think a lot of things came together that we'll never even understand in 100 years. If there's a lesson for philanthropy, it's that you can get a lot done for a relatively small amount of money if you invest it wisely.
If we can do this, well, of course we can take care of immigration. Of course we can do something on reproductive justice. Of course we can tackle racism.
The next battle is going to be lived equality. And we see that in the racial justice movement, and you see that in the women's movement.
We need to make sure that young people grow up safe and free to dream and free to love and free to date. And we need to make sure that older gay people and older transgender people can age with dignity.
It's really strange. I thought I would, and I have zero complicated emotions about it. I mean, I'm out of a job. I've never been happier to be out of a job. I don't... several people have said to me, if I hear this word one more time, I'm going to scream, well, it must be so bittersweet. And my response is, no, it's just sweet, sweet, sweet. And that's really all it is.